Cool moisture touched his hands, a sign of water within. Cool moisture touched his hands, a sign of water within. He slipped inside, the cactus hollowing just enough to shield him. The thick walls blocked the storm. The inside was damp and cool. While sand battered everything outside, he sat in silence, calm and safe. Back in the open desert, chaos reigned. Aliens coughed and cried, some clutching broken shields, others collapsing into the sand. The storm grew stronger. Night fell and terror filled the air. The desert was winning, yet somewhere within that same desert the human leaned back inside his cactus shelter, closing his eyes. While others fought for their lives, he whispered softly, "Sleep now, wake at sunrise." And he drifted off into a calm sleep. The night had only begun, but already, whispers of something strange were moving through the storm. How could one human face what dozens of alien students could not? The storm grew stronger, its roar like 1,000 beasts screaming at once. Sand filled the air until nothing could be seen, only shadows moving and voices crying out. The desert was no longer just land. It was alive, angry, and determined to break them. Alien students huddled inside their makeshift shelters, their eyes wide with fear. One group of scaled warriors had built a shield tent, glowing with bright energy. But the sandstorm ripped against it, pressing harder and harder until sparks began to fly. The warriors shouted, trying to hold it together, but the shield cracked like glass. In seconds, their proud defenses shattered, and they were thrown into the sand with desperate screams. Another group of tall, thin aliens from the ice world tried to dig deep pits to escape the wind. But the storm laughed at their efforts, filling the holes with sand faster than they could dig. Buried alive, they clawed for air, their long fingers trembling. One by one, they pulled themselves out, gasping, only to face the storm again with no protection. The desert was merciless. It took their breath, burned their eyes, and stripped away their pride. Students who once called themselves champions now crawled on hands and knees, crying for mercy, and yet, where was the human? Whispers spread between broken shelters carried by the howling wind. "Did the human run away?" one alien shouted, shielding his eyes. "No one can run in this storm," another hissed. "He is gone, dust by now." Some laughed weakly, trying to hide their own fear. The weak creature has no place here. But deep inside they wondered, why did he not fight the storm like them? Where had he vanished? Hours passed, and the desert grew colder. The heat of day was gone, replaced by icy winds that cut like knives. Aliens shivered, teeth chattering, their energy packs drained. Some tried to use fire, but the flames were eaten by the storm before they could rise. Hope was slipping away. Inside the cactus, the human opened his eyes. The storm still raged outside, but the thick walls protected him. The plant's water-filled body cooled the heat and softened the cold. He drank from his flask, closed his eyes again, and whispered, "Let the storm rage. I will outlast it." Far away, two alien students stumbled across the cactus field, their bodies weak, their legs shaking. They saw strange cuts in one cactus, small enough for someone to fit inside. One alien pressed his ear against it and gasped, "He is inside. The human is hiding here." The other snarled, "Cheating. He must be punished. This is not the Academy's way." But the storm screamed again, forcing them to retreat. They could not break the cactus, not in this fury. They left, their hearts filled with anger and envy. Meanwhile, the main camp was collapsing. Aliens cursed the storm, cursed the Academy, cursed each other. Fights broke out, claws against claws, horns against scales. Some blamed their leaders, others blamed their tools, but no one blamed themselves. The desert tore away their pride until only fear remained. The commanders watched from distant ships in orbit, their eyes cold, their voices steady. "Half are failing already," one said. "They thought strength alone would win," another replied. But even the commanders wondered, where was the human? Back on the ground, a small group of students huddled together under a broken shield. One whispered, "If the human survives while we fail, what will it mean for us?" Another answered, trembling, "It will mean everything we believed is wrong." As the night deepened, screams grew fewer. Some students collapsed, buried in the sand, their bodies too weak to rise. Others still fought, their will burning though their strength was gone. But the storm was winning, and they knew it. Then, in the middle of the chaos, a single alien with golden skin shouted above the storm, "We are the pride of the galaxy," he roared, his voice shaking. "We will not be defeated by a storm." But his words were swallowed by the wind, and his proud body was crushed into the sand moments later. The storm showed no mercy. It was a test not just of strength, but of mind, of patience, of wisdom, and the aliens were failing one by one. Only the human hidden in the cactus breathed calmly. While others cried, fought, and broke, he rested. He did not need to fight the desert. He understood it, and that was the difference. By dawn, the desert would reveal its truth, who had truly survived and who had only delayed defeat. But already, whispers of fear spread among the students. What if the human is not weak, but stronger than all of us? The desert storm howled through the night, louder than thunder, stronger than fire. Most alien students had already collapsed, their pride buried under mountains of sand. What was meant to be a test of honor had turned into a nightmare of survival. But far from the chaos, hidden in silence, the human was calm. Inside the thick walls of a giant cactus, he sat cross-legged, breathing slowly. The plant's body was damp, its inner walls holding precious water. Every drop cooled the air, keeping him alive while the storm screamed outside. He touched the green flesh, whispering softly, "Thank you," he said. "You are my shelter tonight." It was not just survival, it was respect, the old way of humans who once lived in deserts on Earth. He remembered stories of tribes who found safety in plants, caves, and shadows. They did not fight nature. They listened to it, learned from it, and used its secrets. Hours passed, but he did not panic. While aliens fought the desert with shields and force, the human had trusted knowledge. He drank small sips from the cactus water, careful not to waste. He closed his eyes and let the storm rage, knowing he was safer than anyone outside. But not everyone was blind. 2 alien students, weak, shivering, their skin cut by sand, had seen the strange cuts on the cactus earlier. Now, as the storm eased for a brief moment, they crawled back, curiosity burning. One pressed his ear against the green wall and froze. "There is breathing inside," he whispered. "He is here. The human is alive inside the cactus." The other's eyes widened with fury. "Impossible. No one can do this. This is cheating. It must be cheating." But deep inside, they felt fear, because it meant the human had found a way they could not. They tried to break the cactus, clawing at its spines, but the plant was too strong, and the storm soon returned. The wind ripped them away, forcing them back into the night with nothing but envy in their hearts. Inside, the human remained untouched. He heard faint scratching, but he did not move. He knew others had found him, and he knew jealousy was dangerous. Still, he whispered again, calm as stone, "Let them see. The truth cannot be hidden forever." Above the desert, in the Academy's command ship, the commanders watched. Their screens showed life signs of the students below. Most were weak, fading, but one signal remained steady, strong. The human. The commanders exchanged uneasy glances. "Strange," one muttered. "The human's vitals are calm, steady, like he is resting." Another frowned. "How can he rest in such a storm?" No one had an answer, but already whispers were spreading even among the teachers. Back on the ground, the night dragged on. Alien students screamed in pain, some begging for the test to end. Their eyes were red, their throats dry, their hearts breaking. But inside the cactus, the human slept peacefully, as if he were home. Near dawn, the storm finally began to weaken. The sand settled slowly, the air clearing, the world quieting after its fury. Aliens crawled from broken shelters, their bodies covered in wounds, their faces pale with defeat. They looked around, searching for the human, expecting to see him dead like many others. But instead, he stepped out from the cactus, stretching his arms as though he had just enjoyed a comfortable night. The sight froze them all, their eyes widened, their mouths dry with shock. How did he survive?" one whispered. "He was gone, swallowed by the storm," another muttered. But the human stood tall, not boasting, not mocking, simply calm. His skin was not torn, his eyes not broken. He looked stronger than ever. The students who had seen his cactus secret shouted angrily, "He cheated! He hid inside a plant!" Others shook their heads, confused. Cheated? No. He used something we ignored, something we thought useless. The debate spread quickly, anger mixing with disbelief. Some called him clever, others called him a liar. But deep down, all of them felt the same fear. If one human could outlast them so easily, what did that mean about his species? The commanders landed soon after, their ships roaring like thunder. They walked across the broken camp, their eyes taking in the destruction. Dozens of students had failed, their bodies weak, their minds shattered, but one human stood strong, steady, unbroken. The lead commander's gaze locked on him. You, he said slowly, his voice filled with curiosity and suspicion. You alone look untouched. Explain yourself. The human bowed his head slightly, his voice calm. I did not fight the desert, he said. I listened to it. I found shelter where others saw nothing. I drank life where others saw only danger. I rested because I trusted what nature had given me. The commander's eyes narrowed. Some of the aliens shouted again, he cheated. This is not survival, it is trickery. But others looked down, shame burning in their hearts, because they knew the truth. He had survived without force, without pride, without fear. He had done what they could not. The desert had chosen its victor, and it was human. The storm had passed, but the desert was still cruel. The golden sands stretched far in every direction. Broken shelters scattered like bones of dead beasts. The night had claimed many alien students, and those who still stood were weak, their pride shattered, and yet the human walked calmly across the dunes, his steps steady, his face calm. He carried no wounds, his eyes showed no fear, and his body moved as if the storm had been nothing. The survivors watched him in silence, their hearts filled with a strange mix of awe, envy, and hate. One alien with silver skin hissed, he did not suffer like us. Another with glowing horns spat into the sand, he is mocking us, walking as if he is a victor. But in truth, the human was not mocking anyone, he was simply alive, calm, strong, and steady. The commanders of the academy had not yet spoken their judgment, they only watched, their cold eyes studying every move. But among the students, a fire was growing, jealousy, sharp and dangerous. By midday, whisper, is spread like poison. He cheated, he hid inside a plant, one voice said. He is weak, he tricked the test, another growled. But still, others murmured the truth. He survived while we failed. He did something we could not. Every word made the air heavier, every whisper sharpened into anger. At last, a group of strong alien students confronted him. They were taller, stronger, their bodies covered in scars from the storm, but their eyes burned with humiliation. One step forward, his scaled body trembling with rage. You dishonor the trial, he shouted. Hiding in a cactus is not survival, it is cowardice. The human looked at him quietly. He did not raise his voice. He did not fight back with words. He only said, I lived. The storm did not break me. That is survival. The words cut deeper than any blade. The alien's face twisted, shame mixing with rage. Another stepped forward, claws sharp and eyes glowing. You think you are better than us? He roared. You think one human can stand above the galaxy? The human's answer was soft, but heavy. I do not think I am better, he said, but the desert has shown who listened and who did not. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Then, in that silence, fists clenched and claws twitched. The aliens wanted to strike him, to crush the calm from his face. Their pride demanded it, their envy screamed for it. But before violence could begin, a shadow fell across the desert. The commanders had landed again, their ships sending dust into the air. Their leader stepped forward, his cloak whipping in the wind. He raised his hand, silencing everyone. You fight each other like children, the commander thundered. Look at yourselves, weak, broken, trembling. His gaze turned to the human. And look at him, calm, untouched, steady. The students lowered their heads, shame filling their hearts, but the shame quickly twisted back into resentment. One whispered, The commanders will favor him, not us. Another hissed. If humans rise, we fall. The tensi on grew heavier even after the commander left, returning to his ship to prepare the final judgment. The students gathered in secret groups, their eyes cold, their whispers dark. By nightfall, a plan was forming among them. If we cannot defeat the desert, we will defeat him, one snarled. He stole our honor. We will take his life, another added. The others nodded, their jealousy blinding them, their desperation turning to hate. But not all shared this darkness. A few alien students had seen the truth. They had collapsed near death, but remembered the human helping them with water before slipping back to his cactus. They whispered among themselves, "He is not our enemy. He is wiser than us." Yet their voices were drowned by the growing storm of hate. The human, sensing the change in the air, sat alone near the cactus field. He sharpened his small knife, not for war, but for readiness. His eyes scanned the horizon where alien shadows moved in silence. He could feel it. Night would not bring peace, but danger. And as the stars appeared, cold and sharp in the desert sky, the human whispered to himself. The storm tested survival, he said. But tonight, envy will test me. He stood, the desert wind brushing against him. In the distance, alien footsteps grew louder, circling, surrounding. The storm had ended, but another battle was about to begin. And this time, it was not against nature. It was against pride, envy, and fear. The most dangerous storm of all. The storm inside hearts. Dawn painted the desert in red and gold. The storm had ended, leaving silence behind. But the silence was heavy. Broken shelters lay half buried in the sand, and alien students staggered like ghosts. Their bodies weak, their pride shattered. They had survived the storm, but not with strength. Only with luck and desperation. And then there was the human, standing tall, calm, his eyes sharp, his body steady. To him, the night had been no battle, only a lesson. The air trembled as shadows fell across the desert. Great ships descended from the sky, their engines shaking the sand. The commanders of the Galactic Academy had come to see the results. The survivors gathered, heads low, hearts pounding. The commanders walked out in dark cloaks, their eyes cold. They scanned the camp with disgust. So many failures, one commander said, his voice like steel. Generations of training, yet you crumble before wind and sand. The aliens lowered their heads further, their shame heavy, but when the commander's gaze turned to the human, everything changed. He was not broken, not trembling. He looked alive, strong, almost untouched. The lead commander stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You," he said slowly, "human. Explain why you stand as though the storm never touched you." The human bowed his head slightly, his voice calm. "I did not fight the desert," he answered. "I listened to it. I used what it gave me. I found shelter. I drank water. I rested, and I survived." The commanders exchanged uneasy glances. Whispers rose among them. "He speaks of survival without force," one muttered. "He used knowledge, not power," another replied. But among the students, rage began to boil again. "He cheated," one silver-skinned alien shouted, his voice sharp with envy. "He hid inside a cactus while we fought the storm." Another roared, "He is no survivor. He is a coward." The human turned his eyes to them, steady and calm. "You fought the desert and lost," he said softly. "I respected it and lived." His words cut deeper than any blade. The students hissed, growled, and stepped forward, their anger exploding. The commanders raised their hands for silence, but the fury could not be contained. One alien lunged forward, claws ready. The human did not move, he only shifted his stance. In a flash, the attacker was on the ground, his face pressed into the sand, the human's knife at his throat. The CC road gasped. The human's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Survival is not about pride. It is about knowing when to strike and when to wait." He released the alien and stepped back, calm once more, but the message was clear. The human was not weak, he was dangerous. The commanders studied him with new eyes. One said, "He has done what none of you could." Another added, "Without technology, without strength, only with wisdom and will, he outlasted the storm and defeated your arrogance." The students trembled, not from the storm this time, but from fear. If one human could do this, What could his kind do against greater trials? But the commanders were not done. The late commander raised his voice, his tone sharp. This trial was meant to test survival, and most of you failed, he declared. But one among you showed what true survival means, not by force, but by adaptation, by patience, by respect for the desert. The commander's hand pointed toward the human. He is the only one who truly passed. The desert was silent. Every student felt the weight of the words, their pride burning, their shame complete. Some wanted to scream, others wanted to strike, but none could deny the truth. The human stood in the center of it all, calm as the desert itself. He had not boasted, not shouted, not mocked. He had simply survived, and that alone made him more powerful than all of them. But the story was not finished, for in the shadows of the crowd, whispers of vengeance still spread. The storm of sand had ended, but another storm of envy, of fear, of hatred was rising. The commanders had declared the human the victor, but for many students that victory was an insult too heavy to bear. And as the sun rose higher over the endless desert, the human knew the real trial had only just begun. The sun rose higher over the desert, but the heat was nothing compared to the fire in the hearts of the alien students. They had heard the commander's words. They had seen the human declared the only true survivor. But instead of accepting defeat, their shame twisted into rage. Around the human, whispers grew like knives in the air. He stole our honor, one alien spat. He shamed us before the commanders, another growled. Their eyes burned with hate, their voices sharp with poison. Every step the human took was followed by glares. Every breath he drew was like an insult to those who had failed. The human walked calmly, his knife at his side, his face steady. He knew the storm outside had ended, but now a new storm surrounded him, one made of envy and pride. He whispered softly, "The desert was easier than this." That night, when the campfire lights flickered weakly across the dunes, the students gathered in secret, a circle of shadows, their voices low and dangerous. "We cannot let this stand," one said, his scaled fists clenched. "If humans rise, then what are we?" another hissed, his eyes glowing with fury. They spoke of pride, of tradition, of revenge, and in the center of their whispers was one name, human. But not all joined their dark circle. A small group of students sat apart, their bodies weak but their hearts honest. One whispered, "We saw him share water during the storm." Another added, "He did not mock us, he did not boast, he only survived." They knew he was no enemy, but their voices were drowned by the roar of jealousy. The next morning the commanders returned. Their ships thundered as they landed, their cloaks dark against the blazing sun. The lead commander's voice carried across the desert. "The trial is finished," he declared. "The human has proven himself, but the council must decide if his method was honor or trickery." The words lit a fire among the students. Dozens shouted at once, their voices clashing like weapons. "He cheated. He dishonored the test." "No, he outsmarted it. He did what none of us could." The desert echoed with their anger, their fear, their confusion. The council sat in silence, listening, their faces like stone. But the human stood calm in the middle, his eyes on no one, his voice quiet but clear. "You all fought the desert," he said, "and the desert broke you. I did not fight. I listened. I adapted. I respected the land. That is survival, not dishonor." The words struck deep, but instead of peace, they brought fire. One silver-skinned alien roared, his claws flashing in the sun. "Liar, you make us weak with your words. Survival is strength, not hiding." And before the commanders could stop him, he charged. The human did not step back. He moved like the desert wind, calm, sharp, unstoppable. In seconds, the silver-skinned alien was on the ground, the human's blade at his throat. The crowd gasped, silence cutting through the chaos. The human's voice was steady, deadly. "You confuse pride with strength," he said. "You confuse noise with power, but true survival is quiet, patient, and precise." He released the alien, stepping back, but the message was clear to everyone. The desert had made the human dangerous, not weak. The council rose, their voices echoing across the dunes. "This is not just survival," one elder said. "This is wisdom. This is adaptation." But another elder shook his head. "Or it is cunning and dishonor. Should the galaxy reward such tricks?" The council was divided, their voices clashing, their judgment uncertain. Half saw the human as proof of hidden power, Half saw him as a threat to everything they believed, and in the crowd, the alien students watched. Their envy boiling hotter, they whispered, "If the council honors him, humans will rise above us." Their hate turned into a storm, stronger than the desert wind itself. The human stood alone, surrounded by anger, doubt, and fear, but his face was calm, his eyes steady. Inside, he whispered, "The storm is not ours. It is here among them." And as the council's arguments grew louder, as students clenched their fists and sharpened their claws, the human knew the final trial was coming, not against sand, not against wind, but against the galaxy itself. The desert was silent again, but the silence was not peace. It was heavy, like a blade waiting to fall. The alien students stood in a half circle, their eyes burning with rage and fear. The council elders argued, their voices clashing like storms in the sky. One elder thundered, "He is a liar, a trickster. His survival is dishonor." Another shouted back, "No, he is the only one who truly survived. The desert itself chose him." The crowd trembled, torn between hate and awe. In the middle stood the human, calm, silent, unbroken. He had survived the storm, he had faced jealousy, and now he stood against the galaxy's judgment. His hands rested at his sides, his eyes watching quietly. He did not beg, he did not boast, he simply waited. At last, the lead commander raised his hand. The crowd fell silent, the elders stopped their shouting. The commander's eyes were sharp as fire as he spoke. "This trial was made to test survival," he declared. "And all of you, with your shields, your weapons, your pride, you failed." He turned, his hand pointing toward the human. "But this one, with nothing but knowledge, patience, and respect, endured where you fell. He did not cheat. He did not break the trial. He became the trial, and he won." The words cracked across the desert like thunder. Some aliens bowed their heads in shame. Others snarled in fury. One silver-skinned student shouted, "No, if you honor him, you dishonor us all." The commander's gaze burned into him. "Then be dishonored," he said coldly, "because the desert does not care for your pride." The human finally spoke, his voice quiet but carrying across the dunes. "You believe survival is strength, but strength without wisdom is weakness. You believe honor is force, but force without respect is failure. The desert does not lie. It shows the truth." His words sank deep, and even those who hated him felt the weight of them. He did not speak like a student. He spoke like the storm itself, calm, merciless, and undeniable. Then, as if the desert itself listened, the wind stirred, a soft whisper across the sand. The storm had ended, but its spirit seemed to echo in the human's words. The council gave its final judgment. "The human passes the trial," the lead commander announced. "He alone has shown what true survival means." The crowd exploded, some with cheers, others with shouts of rage. Students clawed at the sand, their voices filled with fury. "He cannot rise above us. He is human, a weak species. He cannot be honored." But the truth was already carved into the desert. No matter how they shouted, no matter how they raged, they could not change it. The human had survived, and they had failed. As the commanders prepared to leave, the human stood alone under the blazing sun. He looked at the alien students, their hate sharp like knives, and he whispered, just loud enough for the wind to carry, "If you fear one human, imagine when my people come." The words froze the air. The students who hated him trembled, not from anger this time, but from something darker, fear. They realized the truth. If one human could survive where dozens of them failed, what would happen when an army of humans faced the galaxy? The desert had not only crowned him victor, it had given the galaxy a warning. Far above, in the command ship, the elders whispered among themselves. "Humans are dangerous," one said. "They are not dangerous," another replied, her eyes wide. "They are inevitable." And as the ships rose back into the sky, leaving the broken students behind, the human turned one last time to the cactus that had saved him. He touched its green wall gently, whispering thanks. Then he walked. Forward, calm, steady, unshaken. The desert stretched before him, endless, waiting, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson it had learned that night. Humans did not fight storms. Humans became storms.